Hello everyone and welcome to Rob's Rogues and the Batman universe, and we are slowly getting right to the very end of the action figure portion of this review series. This is of course Mr. Freeze and his new look from the new Batman Adventures, and this is technically the second figure that I bought from the new Batman Adventures. This is the new Batman Adventures Mission Masters line. I have a Mission Masters Batman that is my standard Batman for this line, as I missed out on the Crime Solver Batman. But the Mission Masters came with some really cool accessories, and this is where you can find the Riddler, his new redesign. He comes with a Riddler car, which I unfortunately did not get. I only saw him once at Walmart. I kind of started getting back into the animated series figures. I only bought 2 of these, or technically 3, with Robin being the standard figure, and then Mr. Freeze, and then eventually Batman. I absolutely love this Mr. Freeze, and I love this Mr. Freeze more so than the original Mr. Freeze. I think they've really nailed a lot of these character redesigns the second time around. I remember Bruce Timm in the interview portions on the Season 4 or Volume 4 that talks about the redesigns, that there are things with the characters they thought, if we could go back and redesign it, there were things that I wish we would have done, and this was their chance to do so. And again, like the Joker, I think that this is such a more menacing looking Mr. Freeze, and then hearing the same voice actor play Mr. Freeze with this new look just made him even seem colder, and I love his face sculpt. I have to turn the camera light off for this one. But such a cool face. Again, it's in the dome, so I won't be able to turn the head, but I would assume if I took the dome off that the head would in fact turn. And somebody had said that in my last Mr. Freeze video from this guy, I said, boy, I wish Mr. Freeze was a little bit taller. Well, you know what? He is a lot a bit taller. Almost a complete head and shoulders taller than the original Mr. Freeze. So if you put the old Batman up to it, which the new Batman is about the same height, Mr. Freeze is definitely a taller figure, taller being, as he, I think, definitely should be. And he's represented that way in the series as well. As you can see, there is a look at Mr. Freeze on the side panel. Very, very cool episode. And what makes this Mr. Freeze a little bit different than the other one, something happens to Victor in the episode. He has 5 points of articulation, and technically 6, 7, 8, 9 points of articulation. Somebody's saying 9 points. Well, you'll see in a little bit. The standard arms up and down all the way around. Can get almost at a good seated position. Kind of leans back a little bit. He does come with a couple accessories. This gun is sculpted exactly the way it is on the animated series. So gone is the backpack for Mr. Freeze. Now it's just a gun, which I think works a lot better for this Mr. Freeze. This is a part that I know why it's here. This is all the innards and workings of Mr. Freeze, because from this, if I could pull it, Mr. Freeze kind of slinks away and gets caught in some ice, and something ends up happening to Mr. Freeze that he is caused to be almost a complete robot. So something comes out from him. You can't put the gun in there or anything really else in there, maybe a tiny little gumball, but this is there to represent something that happens to him. So a spider-like thing crawls out of him that if his body were to get hurt or damaged in a fight, the head comes off. So as I try and break the figure there, so Batman destroys the body, a spider-like thing crawls out of his body, and the head will then rest on this. If I can get it just right. Which I should be able to, Rob. It's not that hard. Now I say that, and there, I had the wrong direction. So the spider arms now support Mr. Freeze's creepy decapitated body. So I know that this will not fold up and fit in there, but for the animated series, that's what kind of happens. So this is how Mr. Freeze gets around that his head is the only living thing. How creepy is that? So it was cool to see at the Mission Masters. That's why I gave him 9 points of articulation, because the head now moves differently and there's extra arms. So wah wah, a little funny there, but just really kind of cool. Sometimes I'll have it here, had them on my shelf, and my wife was like, "That's really creepy, Rob." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but really kind of cool." So I used to try to be able to do, like, it won't fit on very well, but you could kind of do something like that, which is really 12 kinds of creepy, but it ironically kind of works. So it almost looks like it would fit in there, but it really doesn't. So I thought this was a really cool improvement on the Mr. Freeze. Again, I like this Mr. Freeze a lot. This really made me fall in love with the character, but you could just see in the face sculpts that they had these red, goggles on here. Now they just gave him red eyes. So I think it's very, very cool. So this is from the Mission Masters line. And I think this might have been Mission Masters 1. It went on through 4 waves of the Mission Masters. Generally, there's always a standard Batman, or a traditional Batman and not traditional. A different painted Batman. There's usually 2 or 3. But in each of the lines, we got a villain. And I take that back. There was only... Oh, yeah, there was a villain in each line. You had Mr. Freeze, you had the Riddler, and then you had a repaint of a Joker twice. So technically, there's only 2 new villains with 2 new sculpts, but this is one I jumped on the instant I saw it hit the shelves, because I had seen this particular episode, and it was just so very cool and very creepy. So today we've been taking a look at Insect Body Mr. Freeze from the new Batman Adventures. This is going to be so hard to say every time. From the Series 1 of the Mission Masters line. There you go. So, as always, this is Rob for Rob's Rogues and the Batman Universe, signing off saying we will see you guys next time.